I kind of fell on my feet really, because it's a gig that I love, because it contains so many elements of stuff I enjoy, because it's got lots of bass and it's got lots of echo, and I like bass and echo. So it's like my ideal gig. Loud on stage. It's quite loud on stage. That's the guitar. I think it's got to be powerful, dynamic, and you've got to be able to hear the words. And I think everyone in the audience should have the same experience, or as close as possible to the same experience. I want the people at the back to have as good experience as the people at the front. People at the sides to be able to hear the bass. So on a Prodigy show, it's all about the feeling of the sound and the power. Not so much the volume. I think for me, it's got to be a powerful show, which doesn't necessarily equate to volume. I think it should be loud in places, but then dynamic as well. But I want everyone, so when the bass drops, I want everyone in the building to feel the bass, and I want everyone to hear the words. The big thing I did with the Prodigy is we changed from their existing setup, which was EAW 850, and moved to a D&B system, which radically changed the sound for me. We're using the D&B GSL system on this, which is the first system that I've really liked more than VDOS. There's a lot to be said for having big speakers in boxes. Big boxes with big speakers in them. It's really important. You need the bass speakers. So I like that thing of just having bass in the air. So it means that the bass end is traveling to the very top of the arena because it's part of the line array. The line array goes down below 50 hertz. It's a solidity to the sound that goes everywhere, because you can't get it all from the subs, and you've got to have that kind of continuity of sound. We've had lots of compliments on this tour from people in the balcony saying they're getting the similar kind of experience, which for me is really important. It's all about that democracy of sound. There's not much to be said between most modern line arrays. They're all pretty good now. I haven't really EQ'd a line array for 10 years. Most sound pretty good. Straight out of the box, you don't really need to do much to them. But this one, I think it sounds really good, and they've got something called array processing, which is a big difference across the room, in that we can balance the system so it's almost the same volume from the front to the back, which means that everyone is getting that important thing, which is democracy of sound, the same experience. We've got the GSL system on the main hangs. It's quite a new box. It's only been out for about a year. So the company we're using, Wigwam in England, don't own that many boxes. So on the main hang, we've got 16 aside of the GSL boxes. But for the side hangs, we didn't have enough GSL to do the side hangs. So we've got D&B J system on the side. We've got 22 GSL subs on the floor, which are triple 21-inch cardioid subs. So it's a one 21-inch speaker rear facing and two forward facing 21s, and the rear one cancels out the sound at the back, so you've got a lot of energy at the front and it's very quiet on stage, which for us actually makes no difference because it's really loud on stage anyway. And then in between the GSL subs we've got an infra sub, so it goes GSL, infra, GSL, infra, GSL, infra, and then they're all arrayed as one long line. But the infras come in and out, so they can work independent of each other. So I can run the system quite happily just with the GSL subs, and the infras are just coming in, adding extra low end. But it's more of a feeling. You can't really hear them come in, you tend to feel them coming in. It goes down just a tiny bit further. We were debating how far it goes down, but it goes down well below 30 hertz, and it's more about the feeling. And the infra subs get brought in at different points. They're not actually used most of the time until about the third or fourth song, and they get brought in gradually because you've got to kind of build the song. So I use the infras to build up a bit more low end in certain sort of crucial moments. There's a couple of big bass drops early on in, well, sort of to the middle part of the set, and I'll bring in the infra sub, and you can sort of feel it. You can see the audience going, "Ooh, well, what was that?" And that's the kind of me hitting the infra subs quite hard. But I don't run them all the time because I still want that kind of dynamic. I want that excitement of the bass coming and going. Being loud all the time just isn't interesting. If you're loud all the time, then it's just loud and your ears close down. I want there to be some dynamic and keep as much dynamic as possible. this lovely desk is a Midas XL3. This is my new old desk. I bought this a couple of years ago, and it's only a 32 channel frame, which is quite unusual. Previously I was using a 40 channel frame, which is obviously that's 8 channels, it's that much wider. I got this because we do lots and lots and lots of festivals, and this fits in between the uprights of the front of house tower on a forklift. So I can forklift it straight into front of house. The other one, you'd have to jiggle the desk, which is hugely dangerous and hard work, and you need crew to do it. This goes straight in. So we've moved to this desk. The channels don't all fit on this desk. So I've actually got, in my rack down here, I've got a digital desk as well. Can you believe it, a digital desk? It's a little Heath Q pack. It's doing extra channels. It's doing some of the drum reverbs, and we've got some weird percussion on the kit. So it's doing all those channels. But most of the active channels that I use during the show are all on the Midas XL3 because it sounds great. It sounds great, and I know how to use it. And it's really easy to use during the show. And the important thing is that it's got knobs on it. It's got knobs that I can turn up and down easily and get to them quickly, because I do lots of kind of dub effects, and I'm usually running 2 or 3 effects during one song, and I need to be able to get to them straight away. So I've got short delays, long delays, and I need to be able to get to that really quickly. And it's really hard on a digital desk because most digital desks have only got 1 assignable control per channel, or 2 maybe. Very few of them have got 4. I mean, I can only do 2 at a time, but I do 2 at a time. And everyone's going, oh, there's a workaround you can use, but it's, you know, I know how to mix on this desk and I know how to do it quickly. It sounds great. And until they can find something that I can mix on as easily as I can mix on this, that sounds as good as this, then I'm just going to use this. So, this is my front of house setup. Got the XL3, and then I've got a side rack with all my effects in it and all my inserts. I don't use that many inserts anymore. I've got just a couple of compressors on the vocals. I've got the DBX 160 on Maxim and one on Keith, and then I've got a second compressor. This is a Al Smart C1, quite an old compressor that goes after the DBX 160 just to catch any transient peaks. We do lots and lots of festivals, and it's a real problem with noise levels, and just capturing the real transient tops really helps keep the overall noise level down. Got a 4-channel noise gate that's on the rack tom, the floor tom, and the gong drum. We've got a new gong drum on this tour, which is kind of a 20-inch pancake drum that then goes through the thing over here, which is the DBX subharmonic synthesizer from the 70s, which is an old DBX hi-fi unit, which annoyingly hasn't got a mains light on it, so you never know it's working until the actual synthesized light comes on. The thing about the Prodigy sound is there's not much subtlety in what I do. It's kind of a nuance-free zone. So the drums, the floor toms are supposed to sound like the slamming gates of hell. So they go through my 3 reverbs down here. So I've got 3 Yamaha reverbs, 2 Rev 7s and a Rev 5. I've got 3 because they don't work all the time. They're getting quite old, so I've always got at least 2 on. I've got use them on 2 sends, and the third is kind of on a backup, but I keep it running anyway because I like the dense textures you get by using multiple reverbs. So they're all set on slightly different sounds, and they kind of add to that kind of, it's just a big drum sound. It's very kind of 80s drum sound and not at all subtle. And then the gong drum has got no reverb, and that's a really big dead bass drummy type sound. That's got the harmonizer, which comes out of this. Then I've got a couple of compressors on the guitar, and I'm using this Mindprint T-Comp because it's got a valve in it and I think it looks quite cute, but mainly because it's got this thing that says saturate that makes it kind of, I don't know, it makes it slightly warmer, and I just quite like it. I've always been a big fan of these units since I first tried one. Then this is a radial phaser, which I'm using 2 channels of. Because I've got a mic and a DI on the guitar, I've got the radial phase up on the DI, so I can change the phase of the DI to the guitar mic. So I've actually just knocked it slightly off to try and get the best sound, because they're never going to be perfectly in phase with each other, so I'm just going to get it so it sounds best. Then I've also got a channel which is on the infra, and it does the send between the infra and the GSL sub, so I can align them. We align them using the computer, but I like to align them by my ear. So I use the knob and I turn the knob until it sounds better. And I'm a big believer in turning knobs until things sound better. And then you can switch the invert switch in and you can make it sound a lot worse. And when you can get it to sound as bad as it can and then punch the button out, that's the best setting, because that'll be when it sounds the best. Above that, I've got a D2 delay, which is kind of my go-to long delay, and I've got that on a tap tempo pedal, so I can just use that tapping during the set, and I tend to have it on the ping pong sound, which is why it's got a big yellow sticker on it there. The thing above it is another TC, and it's quite a cheap TC multi-effect unit, which I use on either the guitar or Keith's vocal. One half of it is used for reverb, and I use it on the cathedral setting, which is a kind of a big reverb. And one song it gets put to maximum and it gives a really big, long, screamy reverb. And then sometimes I use it on the phaser setting, and it's got a really good analog phaser which gets used on the guitar in one song. This is a Dimension D, which is an old kind of 1970s kind of chorusing stereo device, which I use on the guitar to make it sound like a really big guitar, because it's got to sit amongst all the chaos of the Prodigy music and stand up on its own. And by kind of making it big and wide and stereo and thick, I can kind of get it to really sit in with the rest of the tracks. Over here we've got a TC Helicon, which is used mainly for the very angry sound, and that's all I'm going to say about it, except it makes Maxim sound very angry. And then here we've got an Allen Heath Q-Pack, which I mentioned before, which is doing all the kind of off-spill channels, and that's controlled by an iPad. I think these sound great. They're really good. It's really handy to use, but the iPad stops talking to the computer, well, to the desk, if too many people get on the network. Mixing on iPads with wireless it's becoming really popular. The trouble is we've got 10,000 people in an arena all trying to connect to the wireless, and the wireless signal, so we're getting dropouts. We've made it a secret network, but we're still having networking issues, so I'll lose the desk during the show, which is a pain in the neck. Over here I've got a laptop which is running effects. I use plugins. This kind of does really fast delays, so it's going to do a long delay that goes on and on and on. So it goes choo 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 choo. Then I've got my kind of classic distortion sounds, which is a kind of modelled MXR Fuzz Plus and a compressor. And then I've got various other sounds that I use for different songs. My other echo unit is this one, which is a Line 6, which I always have on the ping pong sound, and that's for doing the type sounds. And I've also got a Chaos pad, which is used on the guitar for kind of filtering effects. These are the new sort of TC boxes, which these are the controls for the plugins. So the plugins live on the computer, and this gives me access to the controls. So I've got like a 2290 delay, and I can change the tap tempo. So it's pretty much doing the same as the D2. And this always goes to me to all the shows. So this is part of my fly package. So I don't necessarily use this very much on shows where I've got all my equipment, but if I have to fly in somewhere and we're using rented desk and rented gear, I've got all the delays and everything I need in a kind of handy suitcase package. And then we've got a noise meter. We've always mixed with it. Well, I've mixed with a noise meter for over 10 years now, because every show we do is a festival. Pretty much most of our live work is festivals, and there's always a dB level. In most countries there's a dB level, so I have to be very aware of what kind of level I'm mixing to. So I've had this for quite some time, and it's easy to mix to. It gives me a countdown, so I know when I'm losing green blocks, I'm getting very close to the limit. It means I can pull it back so that I can then bring it up again, so I can actually reach a crescendo. Because the worst thing is going flat out and then realising at the end of the gig you've got to turn down. I'd rather be turning down as I go up and then going back up again, turning down a bit and then going back up again, so that when it comes to smack my bitch up, I can turn it up full and I know I've got the headroom to actually do a big crescendo at the end of the set. To my left I've got the kind of control system, which is controlling the system. So because it's D&B, it's quite integrated in it. We've got the array calc, where you actually work out how the system's designed. So we can look at the venue and how the venue's arrayed. And then there's a network system called R1 which tells all the amplifiers what they are, what they're doing. And all the amplifiers on this system are all D&B D80 amplifiers, and they're all networked together. So we've got a network setter here. I do use a Callisto though, mainly because of this amazing thing here, which is the app that it runs. This gives me a chance to look at all the inputs and get an overview of the system, which is so handy. It's a great thing. So if I choose, I can just EQ parts of the system really easily. I'm just trying to think one that I've got actually EQ on. Not really. Oh, there's. So infrasubs, I've done a massive boost at sort of 40 hertz, and it's really good because I can control the whole system with an easy iPad, rather than trying to get my system tech to do it. So I can do most of the stuff on the fly during the show, which is really convenient for me, and especially when I'm doing festivals where I haven't actually got system tech with me and I'm using the festival tech, I can pretty much I can EQ the system without having to go to the system tech to sort stuff out for me. So it's just really handy. Then we've got a digital network that sends it all down to the racks either side of the stage. We've got two quite big amp sort of dollies which have got all the amplifiers for one side and all the amplifiers for the other side, and the same on stage, and it's all networked together, so it all works pretty easily, well, pretty quickly really. So once it leaves my desk, it enters the digital domain and it stays digital all the way till it comes out the speakers. At a huge thumpunderous level, hopefully. We take our own subs into festivals. We always tour with D&B infra subs, so we always bring in extra sub and we ask them to provide extra sub, and we ask them to provide much bigger side fills, and we carry our own centre keyboard fill. So we always turn up with extra speakers anyway to try and prodigize the festival, so it kind of gets that Prodigy feel. But most festivals these days are pretty good. You know, the standard of PA system is a lot better across the world. Most of the shows we do at festivals, it's quite unusual really. We probably do 2 weeks touring a year, most years, and the rest is festivals, and we'll be doing festivals for 6 or 7 months. And it's pretty good. The audience usually go away smiling, and that's, you know, sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's a lot harder. But most of the time, you know, I think we walk out having provided a good show. I think they always do a good show. It's a good band to go and see. You get your money's worth. Loads of subs at the front, and they're going to get you. Wherever you sit, they're going to get you.